Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session as part of the OTJ Summer Sessions. And this one is all about Zoom, revisited. And probably do that for the first, I don't know, hour or so, depending on demand with questions and stuff. And then get on to a general tech roundtable. So to maybe try to take care of your technology questions. And as a roundtable, even though Bryce and I will probably be taking a lot of the questions, that is if he stops swearing at his computer because he can't get his audio going, we'll try to answer your tech questions as well too. Bryce is a Windows guy, I'm a Mac guy, and we'll try to come at it from those two angles. Okay, I'm just gonna assume that until I hear Bryce's voice, then I'm gonna have to follow up on here. Okay, as a roundtable, I have a stack of ideas here, and they were all written from the perspective of us having gone through the past few months, just basically muddling our way through Zoom, but in that muddling, picking up a lot of experience. So the stuff that I was talking about before, back in May, I guess all the way through to April when I was helping people learn Zoom for the first time, may not be as relevant, but certainly isn't out of bounds. And I wrote this list thinking, probably people don't know this, or probably it'll get useful. So I'm going to try to go through this list. Bryce probably has a list of his own that he wants to talk about, maybe some stuff that's Windows centric, but I want you to start thinking in your own minds, yeah, what about that? Hey, maybe I'll ask about that. And the stuff that, she's not here right now, Louise was asking, how or what is the best shape to choose for a window so that then it looks good when you're sharing it? And actually, that's a really good question. So I invite you to start thinking of those questions, start writing them down or sharing them in chat, because I'm going to try to monitor the chat as we go. And we already have, actually, that's not a bad, or he did, and there's Kevin. So Bryce will probably be back soon. That's thank you for that hint, Glenn. Okay, so couple things that I can start with. First of all, first of all, I'm going to share my screen, and I don't know if you guys know this, but if you have a powerful enough computer, you can do this. You can share your entire screen with your windows, your Zoom windows still visible. Now, I know I have a 27-inch screen, and if you're looking at this on a 13-inch monitor, whoa, you're probably kind of confused, and what is all this? But I'm over here. I'm probably also over there on your in your corner. But what's important about this is that if you have a powerful enough graphics processor and processor in your computer, Zoom will allow you to do this. And why this is important is because of this. You will probably find with the next set of students that come in October that some of these kids might not have ever used Zoom, because depending on whether or not their teachers are totally on demand, or they were using Teams, or they were using something else, this might be their first experience at it. And you will yet again have to be frontline help tech for these kids. And when you're trying to tell them, oh, well, just unmute yourself. And they go, what? It's a lot easier if you can just say, well, unmute yourself. Okay, see where the cursor's flashing over here? So you can actually show the layout of their window. And to be able to do that, I have to show you something else over here. But I actually didn't need to kill that share. So I'll go back to the share, the desktop share. You have to be able to engage this setting where you can actually show all of your Zoom windows. Now, again, let me show you where that is. It's in settings here. Now, if you don't know what this is your first Zoom window. Now, you're wondering, why is it black? Well, I can show you that a little bit later, and it's actually part of the health and well-being seminar that I'll be giving on Thursday. Zoom has a dark theme, and I really encourage you to start using the dark theme in all the applications that you can, because it actually helps your eyes. But anyway, if you're wondering what this is just the first screen, and there's the orange meeting button, schedule button. Over here is your avatar, and under your avatar is the settings button there. Click that settings button, and you're gonna get, everybody can see this window I'm moving around right now, right? Okay, good. Just I'm not sure all the time about what might have changed in versions to versions. Okay, so in video, I believe it's in video. It's been a long time since I've done it. Or was it in, no, it was in sharing, sorry. Okay, it's in sharing. Let's see here. Show, there it is. Third from the bottom, very small text, I'm sorry. It says, show Zoom windows during screen share. So I invite you right now, if you can remember, that is in settings, share screen. If it is capable, your computer, it'll be third from the bottom. Go take a look, see if it's there. Because it is so handy. When you, Carmela, did you need a hand with something?
Yeah, I was just wondering, are you in a paid account? Because my settings looks different and I'm...
It is two things, but it is not the paid account. It is the power of your processor and the power of your graphics card. It is not necessarily your paid account.
Okay.
Okay, but there is a lot of stuff that is connected to a paid account. And
Okay.
I have to try to keep reminding myself of that. What kind of computer do you have, Carmela?
An HP.
When did you buy it?
A few years ago.
Yeah, it's not going to be strong enough.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go then.
Yeah, there you go. So if it was a few years ago, it's probably an HP. It might have been less expensive, probably has a lower quality video card. I'm lucky I have a fairly high-end, oh, here's Bryce. I hope he's got some luck today. A fairly high-end Mac at the time when I bought it, and it has a strong enough processor to do this. Anybody have any luck? Were you able to turn that on? Great. Patrick, you're good. Susan, looks good. Okay. So unfortunately for some of you who are not able to do this, all I can say is, I don't know, buy a new Mac.
Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, buddy. There you go. Okay. So I'm going to make you co-host. If you can watch the people coming in, Bryce, for me.
Sure can.
And comment in on when you think that I'm getting things wrong or anything else like that. We just talked about being able to show Zoom windows during screen share. So that's really helpful. But you'll also notice, now I screen share again. Screen share. You'll also notice that my bottom row of buttons is always visible, even if I move my cursor off it. And that, to me, helps me stay oriented about where I am. Zoom, by default, actually blanks that out. If you don't keep your cursor on any of these buttons, it'll blank it out and it'll go away. And it takes you just another moment to remember where your buttons were if they're not constantly visible in front of you. If you're an attendee and you're just watching a really interesting conference with screen sharing, yeah, you don't need those buttons all the time. But if you're a host, it is handy to have them all in. And those are in, again, in my settings. Those are in a setting that are on the website. Now, there are two sets of settings in Zoom. I don't know if you know this, but this was very confusing for people at the very beginning. There are the easy to set settings in Zoom, which I just called up by calling up my main settings from my avatar. Then you got a whole wealth of these, your virtual background picker, where I just showed you on share screen stuff for video and audio. But if you go to the general tab right there, okay, let's say you're in video, you go back to general, okay, you'll see a button here for view more settings, okay? And if you click that, and because you can see my whole computer, clicking that will call up my browser and will call up all of my settings where there are about 100 of these. And I don't know if you've ever seen any of these. Raise your hand if you've never actually seen the website settings for Zoom. Okay, not many. Oh, okay, Glenn and CA. There is so much there that you can control. There is so much there that you go, holy cow, I never knew you could do that. There is so much that I'm not going to go over it. So I really suggest that you go, okay, so show you that one more time again. We're over here, and I'm going to start all over again, okay? Go to your main Zoom window, go to your avatar, settings, okay? That'll be just the first category at the top, settings. Make sure that you're in the general tab from the left-hand side, view more settings, and it'll call up your account. If you are not signed in, it will ask you to sign in, okay? And from here, you can control all of your settings. And there's so many things about host control. There's so many things in there about, before it was really important about the waiting room and all of that stuff was really, really important. So go in there. Now, if you ask me a specific question, yeah, we'll go in there. But I'm not even going to bother looking there right now because there's just too much. We would get bogged down. Okay. Okay, Bryce, maybe a couple of hints from you because people have been listening to my voice for the past few minutes.
All right.
What do you got?
Okay. One of the biggest things with Windows is to make sure you keep your updates right for things like your camera drivers and your microphone drivers. Yeah, I just had an issue with my microphone, but that wasn't to do with the drivers. This is the other thing with Windows. Anytime you do a major Windows software update, you should actually go through and double check all your essential stuff that you need for teaching, whether it be your microphone and your camera. I actually did that not 30 seconds before joining the meeting, and it worked fine until I joined the meeting, right? So always check everything early with Windows. It is notorious for having driver problems and software problems when Windows updates.
Speaking of updates, we get quite a few of those from Zoom. Now, I don't know if you were like me, but I was in the middle of tests and there was no way I was going to update my main Zoom machine during the middle of tests. That is just something that you do when you think, oh, well, if the computer crashes right now or I have to fix something else, I got time this week. But don't do it when, you know, midterms are just coming up, or certainly don't do it just before a class. Bad idea. Do it when you know that you have time to fix a problem if a problem arises. What that problem will be, I have no idea, but it's a really bad time if it's in the middle of tests. Bryce?
I'd say the same actually with any of the Windows updates. Yes, there can be concerns about security with a Windows machine, but as long as you're running up-to-date antivirus software and you're not going to any dodgy websites, you're going to be pretty safe. There's really often email links or going to specific problematic websites, which will give you viruses, not just normal usage. So when you're dealing with anything that's important with software, for things to work on your system, don't upgrade during an important period of time when you're studying, unless you absolutely have to because your university or your school says you must do something. And then always give time, because you can find all sorts of problems which will be hard to get a response from Microsoft about, and you may have to dig around to find out how to get around it from all sorts of different places, like OTJ.
Where Bryce and I live. John, what do you got?
You might want to turn off automatic updates, because I have them on right now for Windows, and sometimes Windows updates overnight at the most inconvenient time, and you come in and you had everything set up the night before so that you could go and do your stuff, and then you come back and it's a totally blank machine and you have to set everything back up. So I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to figure out how to turn off the automatic updates so that I can just update it when I have time.
There are a couple of things you can do. I'll see if I can screen share this one right
Okay,
now.
hang on. I'll give you that. Oh, no, you're a co-host. You can screen share, but I'll turn on screen sharing anyway.
All right. Now, I'm running Windows 10, all right? And this is in your settings on your computer. So if I'll just go back to here. So this is basically my settings here. And if I go to update and security, it'll give me a few different options. Now you can check for updates. This is set for automatic updates. You can pause updates for 7 days if you don't want to mess around with other settings. You can change your active hours. This one here, this is the time when I'm using my computer. So between 8 o'clock and midnight, it will not update anything because that's what I'm using the computer. It'll only do it outside of those hours. If you want to turn it off altogether, you can look at your advanced options and you can turn off all sorts of things. Turn off automatic restarts. You can turn on notifications when you need a restart to update. You can pause updates until for up to 35 days from the day that you choose, say from today. So I could pause updates totally until the end of September if I want. That way, if you don't want to stop automatic updating, but you want to defer it, that might be a good option too.
Okay. Okay. Gonna kill your share, Bryce.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Next couple things. Chat. Now, you might notice if you look in the chat for Zoom right now that you are not allowed to chat with each other. And that's a setting that I have on my website that does not allow my students to chat with each other. I know they can chat online and they can chat on Instagram if they really wanted to. Well, okay, I can't stop that, but I'm not going to make it easy for you to become distracted by chatting in the Zoom chat. So if you're wondering why you can only chat with me, it's part of my settings. That's a security thing, by the way, because you never know. You really literally never know if one boy has a crush on a girl and starts sending her messages, and could be difficult. Annotation also too, on your whiteboard. I don't allow annotation. Annotation is off until I turn it on. And screen sharing is not universal. It is only allowed when I say it is allowed as the host. And those are very important security measures. So turn off screen sharing until you allow it, okay? Turn off annotation of the whiteboard. And I would probably also suggest, as I began this little bit about your chat, private chat should only be with the host. Now, as the host, you can chat with anybody you like. So for example, I'm about to screen share my whole desktop again, and you can see that I have a plethora of choices here with anybody I want, okay? Just like you might when you normally host a meeting and you can chat with other people. But here's the problem. We've got, 28, 29 people here. And if I wanted to find somebody, I got to go look for them. Oh, no, it's not even in alphabetical order. For example, let's say I wanted to chat with Patrick, but I'm all the way up here, and this is a 100-person event. This is what I can do, okay? You can go here and chat in the chat window and click the drop-down menu so the drop-down menu appears. And then I just type PA. And there he is. And that includes, like here, TI. And there's Timmy. Okay. If you wanted to get back to everybody, EV, and a few other people who have EV in their names. Okay. Pretty cool, right? But let's say you don't want to go that route and you're more of a mouse clicker person. This is Bryce Harris. I click, that's a link. That name is a link. And I can click it right there. Whoa. And if I click everyone, guess what happens there? Pretty cool, right? When I discovered that that was possible, here, let's go to Scott there. That's Scott's personal account. I can go chat with Carmela. So as the host, this is actually pretty convenient for you if you want to tell, hey, knock it off and start paying attention to the screen, and they'll get a private message. And it's really easy for you to jump in there with that kind of chatting function. Okay. Bryce, you got one?
Okay. No, I was catching on a couple things there. Scott commented quite rightly that it's important to update your security software. All right. Now, as I said a moment ago, if you're not going somewhere with questionable websites and you're not opening links, say on Messenger or through social media software, unless you really know who the message is from, I would be, if it's the middle of a busy period, I wouldn't be as concerned. Yes, I'd say Fox News is a questionable website. That's just my opinion, though. And with regard to Windows Update and security patches, having read a lot of the documentation about security patches and what they're aimed at, if you aren't going to questionable sites and aren't opening links, you're not going to have a problem, because a lot of that is dependent upon who else accesses your computer. All right. Now, I have friends in the security side of the world who are white hackers and serious security guys. They will tell you if they get in a position where they can access your computer, then you're in trouble. But if there's no access available, there's nothing they can do about it. So it's a question of how you use your computer. If you're a technically confident person, you're better off deferring a couple of things until after your busy time is through. If you're an adventurous computer person, it's essential to have your security patches up to date, because people like that tend to roam and do a lot more. But if you're conservative about what you do, you'll be fine for a few days. That won't be a problem.
Patrick.
Yeah, just back to what you were doing earlier, Jose, just a quick question. I find with chat, when students send me a private message, if it's a lower level class and they've written me in Japanese, which I discourage, but I allow, I can't copy. If I can read it, I'm good to go. But if I cannot read the kanji or something, I can't copy and paste, because one of the security features of Zoom is that when they send you a private message, it's not copyable.
Can someone send me a private message, please? I never knew this.
If someone said, okay, I'll send you a private message.
Yeah, anything, just any chunk of text.
Hello.
Okay. Oops. Okay, one from Jane, private. Well, looks to be copying. Hang on just a sec. And we'll just confirm that with a paste. It pasted.
Well, that's interesting, because I'm on the latest update, and that was an ongoing issue. And eventually I had to tell students no private messages. If it's really secret and personal, line me or email me, because I couldn't. That was my issue, is I'm running the class. I barely pay attention to chat. Yeah. I use chat more as a one-way. Mm-hmm. And I got students trained to say, speak out, don't chat, because I don't see it necessarily. Yeah. But the private, I couldn't copy and paste. So maybe it's an issue that I might be having.
What's your version, Patrick? What's your Zoom version?
Right now, about Zoom, it's 5.2.1.
Yeah, you got the newest version. And I'm staying on 5.1.2 right here. Yeah, I could speak to that. I don't know. I want to get over finals before I upgrade my main machine, but it could be. But as the way I see it right now, it does go over. However, I'm with you. I pay no attention to chat when I'm teaching, and I tell the kids that don't even bother trying. I will not pay attention to it. And I only use it mostly for taking attendance. So they have to put in the chat line at the beginning, chat line at the end with a keyword that I give them. And that's pretty much the big thing for me. I don't really find a way to use it in my classrooms, because I'm mostly doing speaking stuff anyway. Is that an answer for your question, Patrick? Okay. Bryce, did you want to talk about side-by-side? Because we were always planning for you to talk about side-by-side way back in the Saturday sessions. You want to talk about it that bit?
Yeah, depending on what setup you have with your computers, I currently run 2 monitors. That way I can use a variety of different screen settings, and I can plug documents and websites and have everything spread neatly. I found that in the earlier versions of Zoom, there are some issues to doing side-by-side, whether it be sharing documents and things of that nature. But I have also seen lately that it seemed to resolve a lot of the issues that were going on in the early days with Zoom, about having whole screens wiped out where you couldn't see things. So what I'll do, I won't go into all of that now. I'll look at that further on as we go if you have questions about it, because there have been some changes, and I've also updated all my hardware since then. So I've also got a few changes since then too. So I'll skip that one for now. I was just having a look at the other information which is handy when you look at updating your Zoom. So Patrick, if you go into your settings tab, and I'll just share this for a second myself. All right, okay, that's the one. Okay. When you go into settings, or is that, can you see that there?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Go to your avatar, okay? And you can go to check for updates. When you do that, like my machine's up to date, there's this thing here called release notes. If you press that, you'll get to the website. Oh, wrong one. I'll just change my shared screen. This might be better. Okay. This one. You can go through information about the updates that have happened. I'm hoping you can see this one. This should be my browser. And you can look at the current release, which will tell you everything about what's changed in the latest update. So, for example, this will tell you about the latest changes in chats and what you can do, what's happening with phones, what has been fixed. And you can also look at previous updates to see what's changed. Now, I would think that it's probably in the main settings through the website that would allow you to copy and paste anything with a chat in a private session, as long as you're the person running the meeting. Right? Now, the updates are different too between Windows and Mac OS and Linux and all that. So if you look at
Bryce. Oh dear.
your, oh dear.
There you go. Keep going. You're back.
Yeah, you froze on my end too, so it could be my connection is sometimes a little dodgy too. All right. Now, I'll throw the ball back to you guys. Is there something you want to know about? Because that is easier than me talking about stuff generally for Windows particularly.
If not, I got a stack of stuff here, and you'll probably think of some more stuff after I go through that stack of my stuff.
Excuse me, I do have one question. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, all of these, when you were talking about the settings, like you click on your avatar, were you talking about the Zoom site?
No, this is through the main software page. So if you're using the program rather than the website, when you start Zoom, you'll have basically it's going to be let's see.
I use the website, but
okay, that would be my next recommendation then, Mary, is to download the software and get it so that then it's already actually, you don't know this, you're not actually using the website. The website still talks to the software that's on your computer that you don't even know is there. So you may as well, you already have it on your computer. You may as well have total control of it and get away from the, it's an albatross around your neck having to go to that website and to log in and to run your meetings from there. Okay.
oh,
But I interrupted Bryce.
oh, sorry, and that
Oh, don't apologize. Apologize for it.
No, don't like I said, I'd recommend you use the program or the app to run Zoom because it gives you a lot more immediate control without any interruptions from having to use a browser.
I see. Oh, thank you.
Okay, now how do you do that? Now let me show you.
Thank you.
So for example, somebody like Mary who wants to graduate to actually running this app on its own. So you probably have never seen this particular window, have you? Yeah, that's right.
No.
Because normally you're on this website, right? The Zoom website. And you know, you want to host a meeting, you got to do this and do all, and then you log out, and then you log back in, and you've got a you know, a Rubik's cube. You got to choose all the traffic stoplights, and then you log out. You got to choose all these sidewalks, and it's just annoying. You won't have to do that anymore, and you've already got an account, so it's the same password and the same login. All you have to do is go up here in the Zoom website where it says resources.
Okay.
And it says download Zoom client.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I never noticed that.
Actually, that's kind of down on the list, but while we're there, you okay there, Mary? You download
thank you.
Zoom client. Okay, and what kind of computer you have again, Mary?
I have a laptop, a Fujitsu Windows.
Got it. Okay, so you got a Windows PC,
Yeah.
and that version will be in there. And you just go ahead and grab. You've downloaded software before and installed it on your computer.
Not really.
Oh, okay. Let me be a bit more atomic then. But I actually know, Bryce. Could you walk her through it, because this is your territory?
Okay. Now, when you get onto the site to download the software, right, you'll normally be given just a link to press, and it will ask you then if you want to download the software or if you want to run the software, and they'll ask you in the browser, or sorry, there'll be a pop-up window that comes to ask you about that. And for this software, if you just press run, it will start the whole installation process, and it will ask you a couple of things as it goes. With a laptop, if you just go for the recommended installation places, that will work fine. If you use a desktop PC, there's a lot more stuff to play with, but just a laptop, just use the recommended settings as it goes through.
Okay.
And that'll work.
Okay, and while we're there, actually, we got to go back there. Remind everybody that there is a ton of information here in their support pages. There's a topic that you want to find out about, okay? Go here and search for it. You'll find support videos. Some of it's kind of old because it's a company that's been around, but most of your questions will be at least half answered, and you'll be able to ask more intelligent questions when you're asking a very deep question of somebody like me or Bryce, and you can get your answer sometimes answered much more quickly, or as you're getting ready to ask that question, you go, hey, why didn't I think of that? So you're basically becoming independent of needing somebody like Bryce or me to help you out. Use the support pages. They are fantastic. They're a fantastic resource.
And the other thing you find when you search is that all sorts of educational institutions around the globe have got guides for both their teaching staff and their students on how to use Zoom. Now, a lot of them are a little bit out of date, but they're a good basic introduction. You'll have PDFs you can download, so you don't have to worry about using a browser to look at things if you don't want. And even some businesses deal with this because they do this for their client meetings as well. So there's a lot of really good resources around.
Louise.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I've had a couple of problems while using Zoom. The first question I have is about using polls in the class. I know that you have to set up the poll before you start the lesson, which I did, but I set up 2 polls for the class. And unfortunately, when it came to use the poll, it seemed to only let me use one of them, and I had a bit of a panic and couldn't find the other poll. I wasn't able to access it. So perhaps I was doing something wrong. Could you help me?
Okay, I'm going to admit that I'm glad Bryce is here, unless he's going to say that, no, Jose, I've never used polling, because I know it only in a rudimentary sense. But Bryce, how are you with polling?
You're one up on me because
Okay. Okay, let's try to work this out. So for those of you who don't know or have never done it before, down here is a button called polling, which can be quite useful if you were a little bit smarter than me and you actually knew how to use it well. But I've done it before. It's just that I've never used it a lot in my classes because I find I don't like downtime in my classes. I don't like my students to have any amount of time where they're not speaking for any more than a minute. And I find that a poll makes things kind of silent. So that's just me. But if you are going to use a poll, you click the polls, then you're going to get, this is a poll that I've had before. I'm going to click this off, get rid of that. And now I don't know how to get a brand new poll.
Edit.
Edit. Okay, thank you. See, I knew, but that's to edit. It restarted the poll. Okay, yeah, there it is. Good.
Go to your website.
Hey, you know what, Patrick? Have you done a lot of polling?
I haven't. Bill could probably explain it better than me.
Bill, my buddy Bill. Okay, you got the floor, dude.
Sorry, Doraemon.
Oh, Doraemon.
Oh, sorry, I was having a little fun there. I don't use polls much. I was going just about to type in. I use Google Chat, Google Forms for this because it's easier to do on the fly. And
I can talk a little bit about polls. I do them selectively at the beginning of the semester and at the end. And who was it who had the question? Was that Mary, or sorry, Louise? I'm sorry. It's not true. You can do them on the fly, but you just have to set them up during, you can do them during class, but if I have students in breakout rooms, I'll prep the poll then. If you click edit, then the website will come up, then you create new poll, and then you make it, and then when you say activate, you have the different polls that you have pre-set up done.
When you say different polls,
Beginning of that.
sorry, Louise, go again.
So I mean, for example, they're in the breakout room. You press what? I'm sorry, I missed the word.
Well, he has it right there on the Zoom screen. If he titles the poll, let's say motivation or homework, if he has more than one, a drop-down menu will appear, and then you select the poll that you want to activate.
Can I save this right now, Patrick? And
I
so we can get,
so.
okay, save that.
I don't know.
Okay.
I've never done it without an empty. Yeah, just fill in nonsense. Save it. And then when you go back to your page, yeah, you'll see the main. Do you have more than one poll there?
Don't think so. How would I be able to tell?
End poll.
I'll tell you, I'm going to end poll. Okay.
Now there you go. See the edit up on the top right corner?
no,
It'll take you automatically to that page, and you pick the poll you want. You only have one poll, so it's going straight to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to make another poll here.
Yeah, try that.
And you can make up to 25 polls, I think.
It was very intuitive, and you can do it on the fly, but like Jose, I don't like a lot of downtime. So I would either do it before class, or if they're in breakout rooms and I suddenly have an idea, I'm taking a different tact, I'll make a new poll while they're in the breakout room.
Why don't we give you Bill White's take on this? What do you think about looking at that now, Bill? Do you still think that Google Forms wins? Do you think that would be better for Louise?
I don't say either one is better. It's just that I have a plethora of preset Google Forms for like a yes, no, true, false, I don't know, or ABC 1, 2, 3. So I guess I could convert them to polls and leave them there, but I like the idea of that. I can put up my shared screen as the kids answer the questions. They see the bar charts or the pie charts expanding according to their answers. The kids kind of find that little bit of extra visual effect more appealing, I guess. That's what I find with my students myself. But
follow up, Louise?
I do both, and I find that if it's a quick thing, then I'll do the poll. If I want, like you said, the visual effect of them seeing their classmates change or vote or participate, I see what you're saying.
Follow up, Louise?
Also with the polls, you can download a report of each of the polls at the end of a meeting. So that gives you something you can keep as a record to share outside of class if you need to. You obviously can share the results instantaneously in the class as well, and you can make the polls anonymous or by username as well. So there's that as well. And sorry.
No, I was going to say a report is only saved if you have had the students register for the meetings. If you have them like in a waiting room and you have all of their names and addresses. Otherwise, because I found out the hard way, because I made no waiting room, just kind of come in, no password. I think the password is embedded in the link, but I don't have a list of the students coming in, so the polls were not saved.
Ah, okay.
I always thought actually myself that reports were part of institutional accounts. I actually have a paid account and I don't get reports. If you're not part of an institutional account that can actually control who is coming into that institutional account's host domain, you're not going to get reports. Sorry, go ahead.
But no, I am on an institutional account, and we
See-
were told to have the students sign in with their addresses, but I didn't do that for the first meeting, and I gave them one link for the whole semester,
Yep.
and I didn't want to mess with it. So I had
Yeah,
people
I understand.
consistently signing in with other mail addresses.
Yeah, you would have been able to have those reports. Timmy?
Right, if they'd done that.
And you were saying too that your students were going directly into the meeting, not into a waiting room.
Right.
These days, unless it's changed the latest update, I thought waiting rooms were essentially mandatory for security purposes.
I was afraid of that, but that didn't happen.
This was before. And also, depending on the agreement between the institution and Zoom itself, the IT administrator has some control over features like that. Timmy, did you have your hand up?
I did. Like as an alternative, I'm sure some of you already know this. Although there was one attendee here who mentioned Mentimeter. There's one website that I use. It's real-time polling, and the free option is pretty decent. It's called Poll Everywhere, and for the purpose of just testing it, I can send you guys the current poll that I made. If you click on that, basically there's a question for everybody there, and if you click on it, again, this is like another website to add to your toolkit if you want, and you can sort of score what it is. I don't know, I can't share my screen, but okay, yeah. And so what happens is I can see your responses in real time, and if you guys want, you can sort of integrate that into your Zoom, I guess. You could just send the link to the students, and I wish you could see my screen right now. What's happening is that as you guys are sort of entering your answers, I can see in a bar chart.
Timmy, why don't you share your screen?
Can I do that?
Yeah.
Wait, let me see. How do I do that? Okay. Share. Okay, this particular, can you guys see it then? Okay.
Not yet, but right there, yeah.
And it's come up well.
Yeah, so I don't know. You can also set how many times you guys can answer it, or you can only just set it like one time so they don't go back and forth. So as you can see, it's changing as you guys are putting in your answers. So if you guys want, go ahead and try to use this if you want. It's actually pretty flexible. Aside from this, there's also like word text. Like for example, you tell them, here's a word, make a sentence, and it'll show up as like text bubbles. So that's pretty decent. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. So.
Quick question for you, Timmy.
Yeah.
Which kind of account do you have with Poll Everywhere? So I'm just having a look at their account information. Right. For example, if you go to use their account, it's a maximum of 25 in the audience size.
Yeah, that's a good thing that you mentioned that. My account only, I think, is the basic account. I don't have to pay for anything, but as you mentioned, there is a limit on the number of students. And there's also a limit on the number of responses before you have to refresh the whole thing. So right. Depending on your class size, this may or may not work for you. Yeah. I mean, unless you have the paid option.
You know, one of the nice things about the Zoom poll is that they see the students voting real time. Mm. I'm inebriated, so I didn't expect to speak, so I haven't thought about this clearly, but at the beginning of the semester, I was using it quite a bit, and the students were, although I understand Jose's critique about silent time, they were very active. They were, suddenly everyone would look and see how the voting was changing. So I found it to be, and actually it encouraged them to focus on what was happening on the screen. In control, what do you say, in a limited use, I would, maybe for a 60, 90-minute session, I would use a polling once or twice. And not every class. But I recommend people play with it.
Yeah, I think we've got a few options here for Louise: Google Forms, Mentimeter, Poll Everywhere. Louise, just give those a bit of a poke and see if if you like any of it.
Yes,
did you want to follow up? Okay.
I have a separate question, but I'll wait for someone else. If
are you sure? Okay. Bryce.
Susan was asking about, Susan Jones was asking about using the whiteboard. and people's opinions and feelings about using the whiteboard. She put that through on the chat room. That's right, isn't it, Susan? You can unmute if you like, but I'll unmute you.
Hi, yeah, I know it's there and I never use it. I've played around with it, but I never use it in class. And I wonder if I'm missing out on something by not taking advantage of it. So if you guys use it and find it really effective, please let me know how you're using it. Thanks.
Bryce, you want to go or shall I?
You should go for this one.
Okay, I don't use it. I think that's, well, let me just show you. Share screen, whiteboard. Come on. Share. It's because, I don't know if you can see me, I use a trackpad, but it would be the same problem if I used my old mouse. This is me trying to write my name. And it just takes too long. And it makes me look like a 2-year-old kid. And it does, if you're good at it, and if you got a stylus on a stylus board, it looks great. If you're a maths teacher, my buddy Matthew Jenkins down in Australia, we looked at this together for him because math symbols are hard. And trying to do math symbols over lines and trying to do, you know, even basic calculus on normal word processing or normal Excel sheet is just ridiculous. It's just actually faster to do it even here. But what he did was he got a stylus, and that really helped him out as a maths teacher. But I just found it too clunky. It has nice features. And if you're used to it and you know how to use your finger on a trackpad really, really well, then yeah, it might work. But personally, let me show you what I use instead of a whiteboard. Susan, what kind of stuff would you write on a whiteboard if you were thinking about it? What kind of, like, you want to basically have a blackboard like you used to in the classroom? What would you use it for?
Yeah, honestly, I rarely even use the Blackboard in the classroom. I would project whatever we were doing in front of class and mark it up somewhat on the whiteboard. But I rarely used it just to write freehand anyway.
Okay, so let me show you what I think is useful for people like yourselves or for others that I was showing to other people even back in May. And here it is. Okay, I'm going to share a page from my word processor. This is my word processor. Now, most word processors are portrait orientation. This is landscape orientation. And, you know, you just, you can control that in the documents. This is from my word processor software in Macintosh called Pages. But you can use Word, you can use LibreOffice, doesn't really matter. It's a word processor document. Now, in a word processor document, I am way better at typing my name. And I can even get the accent. And if it's something that you actually want to make sure that students can see really well, you've got control of things like sizes. You know, you can hit return keys. You can copy paste. And on a whiteboard, if you write something and then you need more space, you can go to the page before. That's fine too. But this is so much easier because you're just scrolling like you would a word processing document. These thumbnails on the side let you jump up and down if you've got a whole bunch of these up here. And it also means that you can prepare a whiteboard, and by looking at the thumbnails, remember where you were or remember where you want to be. If you want to jump around, these thumbnails are just heavenly that way. Close the formatting and the kids can concentrate on what's in front of them, and being able to type for me is way, way faster than using the whiteboard stylus. But that doesn't mean that you can't, you know, use charts. You can't use shapes. Every modern word processor has all of this, and whatever word processor you use is the one that you're going to be familiar with. I would suggest this.
Sure.
This has just been great for me.
Yeah, that's basically what I've been doing. I just didn't know if I was missing something with that whiteboard feature because I haven't used it at all. I too found it to be pretty clunky. So thanks for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Jose, can I add in something on that?
Go for it.
Yeah, I would agree with Jose because I use the whiteboard quite a bit on Zoom when I'm doing, for example, when the students do a listening activity, and then I send them into breakout rooms and they share and compare their answers. Then we come back to the main room, and I want to get their answers so that everybody understands, you know, the listening. And so I'll open the whiteboard and I'll be typing while they'll be telling me the answers. But the trouble with Zoom Whiteboard, I find, is that every time you start typing something, it creates a text box. And it gets really messy because it wraps around and then you put your cursor somewhere else and it's not lined up. And so I would agree with Jose that using just a blank Word document or word processing, whichever application you're using, actually, I think would be easier for all of us to navigate because it's what we're most used to.
Or PowerPoint.
I think too, when it comes down to whiteboard, if you're doing like a small scale meeting where there's like 5 or 6 people and you're going to be interactively doing something on the whiteboard together, it's actually really good for that scale.
Yeah.
It's not really designed out for a learning environment outside of that. It's actually more useful for brainstorming meetings with a small number.
Yeah.
Mary.
It's just basically what Stephen and Bryce said. Sometimes I do dictation, like when I have some discussion questions, then I dictate the discussion question, and then just to, for a check, I go back and I use the text box on the whiteboard, or like I have students make their contribution on the whiteboard. That's nice.
Yeah.
Louise, did you have your hand up again? Or you just forgot to lower it before?
I just forgot to lower it before.
It's okay. Risa, did you want to? No problem. Risa, did you want to make your comment to Stephen by voice? Because she wrote something.
The people around me and myself struggle a little bit with attendance. If I have a small class, I actually take it by, I print my roster and I take it by hand. That works fine for me. But as the numbers go up, the attendance is kind of it's a struggle to keep track of who's there. I know some teachers who have a lecture of 100 students and they say, okay, write your name in the chat before you leave. And of course, everyone writes thank you. And then who's going to sort that later? And so, the most reasonable option we have now is to use Moodle on the side, because our university uses Moodle and there's a semi-automatic attendance function. You can use that at the same time. But I was wondering how the attendance function on Zoom worked for any of the people here, because I know it exists, and I know that I think you have to have all of the students register and have an account for it to work. And right now, in the spring, I didn't require that for students. I just had them click on a link, so that wasn't going to work for me. But if I set it up beforehand, if I have students create an account, am I going to be able to take attendance on Zoom? And does that work, or is that another thing like the whiteboard that it's there but you're not really going to use?
It's there, all right, but the report for the attendance is available about 30 minutes after the meeting, so it's not instantaneous.
And it is available, again, as we were saying before, only to institutional accounts. Do you have an institutional account, Risa?
Yes, but yes. But okay. I hesitate because there are some functions that I heard that institutional account have, and then mine it didn't have. We must have the cheap version of it or something, like the breakout rooms, like some functions about moving students or creating new rooms just aren't there. Although other people have said, oh, if you have an institutional account, you can do that. But mine didn't have it. So
go check. Go, Bryce. Go, Bryce.
The other good thing with the report, it will tell you if you've got access to it, if attendants have come and left and then rejoined the meeting. So you'll be able to tell how long people are in your learning environment for, where they've just come and gone and done something else and disappeared. So that's one thing which is good about the reports, if you can get them.
To get them, though, Risa, there might be one other avenue. I don't know where your university is or how closely you can work with the IT department. But if the institution itself purchased the license for an institutional account and then control of it resides with the IT staff on the campus, you might be able to find the person who actually flicks all the switches and pushes all the buttons for the settings for the institutional account at the IT department on the campus and ask them, why don't we have this feature and what do I do so that I can get that running in my classes? So if you can find the IT department and then they say, oh yeah, that you talk to Suzuki-kun about that, and you talk to
Right.
Suzuki-kun.
I'm sorry to say they're pretty useless here.
Dang.
I mean,
It was a nightmare. Like it was a miracle we got Zoom. We couldn't even get it in our email accounts. Like they made this strange Zoom 004 email account, and then when I was using the account and I tried to switch it over, I wasn't even allowed to switch over my schedule. In the middle of the term, I had to recreate all the schedules and all the links. And I said, no, just make them in her name. It makes it so much easier. They didn't do that. Like, no.
Probably because they didn't know how.
Right, exactly.
Okay, John Helbig, and then we'll move. Sorry, Elisa, I'm sorry. Did you?
Oh, I'm sorry, but the attendance thing, so does it work for some people or no?
Again, because it's part of institutional reports, I think, I mean, I don't have an institutional account.
Okay.
And I don't know, and okay, Patrick.
My complaint about the report system for institutional accounts was, at my university anyway, as Jose mentioned, the administrator selected how it's run. And my students can sign in individually, so their names would be K71432224.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what, it didn't have they didn't use their email and they didn't use their student.
Patrick, you muted yourself for some reason.
Because I hit the button.
Ah, that may be right.
I hate it when it's my fault. If I'm lucky, my classes are under 30. I shared my screen. I have an Excel file, and I literally read the names out like you would in an old-fashioned classroom to help get to know the students. And it actually worked because they had to show up and turn on their camera for at least that portion. And it worked very well. If you have a small class, I think that's better than the report function.
Okay.
If you have a large class, I don't know.
John Helwig.
Yeah, what I do is I have the students make sure they rename themselves. They're in English. I have them in groups, and they also have roles for the day. So they have a number dash name, and then after that is their number. And in the participants list, it sorts them by the group number that they're in that day. And so there's like 4 number 1s, 4 number 2s, which I use then when I put them into breakout rooms. And then once I go to the breakout rooms, I have a list of who's in which room, and I just take a picture of it. And I also have a version of my attendance sheet, if you will, which is listed by what role they are that day. And I just go looking at, okay, I only have 3 number 1s here, so role 2 is missing. Role 2, okay, role 2 is absent today. And I basically, I do it manually, but it's relatively quick if you have the students rename themselves. Then after about 2 weeks of harping on it, they do that.
Stephen?
For me.
Sorry, Stephen?
Yeah, it was basically the same thing. I was curious to see how different people take attendance in their classes. And I mean, I do a similar thing where in every lesson, the first time students go into a breakout room, I simply look at the list of the students in the different rooms and I take a picture of it with my iPhone. Yeah. And sort of that's my way to take attendance. You could also do it by clicking participants and taking a photo of the list of participants, but of course, your students will be seeing you do that.
Yes, yes, they will. And they know that you do it. And I intentionally make sure that they see me taking a picture of the thing so that they know that I'm recording, are you here, are you not here?
Yeah. And the other thing is that what I have done as well is if you have a class that is not too large, let's say a maximum of 25 students or something like that, I literally, at the beginning of a lesson, sometimes call the names. And for me, that's a kind of sound check.
Yeah.
to make sure the student, and I make sure I tell them, I want your videos on and I want you unmuted. And when I call your name, I want you loud and clear to say either yes or here.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, it is a bit of a ritual to get the class going, and it works as a kind of a sound check.
Right.
I'm just going to put here, Jane, you are saying that your institution says the students have to check in via the chat to you. Is that right? Now, do you auto save your chat records from the meetings? Because if you do, that'll automatically save it as a text file.
Yeah, I auto save the chat, and I just run through. There's 45 to 50 students at the beginning. If I can't pick up a couple of the students or I've missed them, then I just use the search function and put their numbers in the search function and get them like that. But I'm just about to type another entry. I'd love to show my screen, but it's got my student information. But the person who was talking about checking attendance in an institutional account, I'll put it in chat in a minute. But if you go to reports and then usage reports, and then you'll get all the information. You can choose a date period and just click on search. Hang on, let's just do that now. Click on search and it will give you a detailed report on each meeting, each date, and the number of students. And if you click on that number of students in blue, you'll get a list of all the students. So for an institutional account, if you want to do that method, that's quite easy. But my university said they must go in chat because they must be there at 8:40 or 10:30 or whatever. They must be there within 10 minutes of the start of class.
Jane, question to you. I believe that the report is for a limited time, right? Is it a month or 6 weeks?
So I'm just playing with it now as I'm doing it. Hang on a sec. I'm trying to multitask here. Let's go 1st of July. Yeah, it's giving me a month at a time.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing I'd be inclined to try is maybe getting all the students to use a tag, so that you can just search for the tag rather than doing individual numbers, and that'll should give you an easier way of searching your text file. So if you have a tag hash I'm here or hash hello, something simple, and all the students have to use that. That might be much quicker for a text search.
I basically had to do exactly what I was told for that part of Zoom. For the rest, I had total freedom. That was the only bit I was told that I had to do. So I didn't argue with it. I just said, I'll do it.
Well, that's why I was thinking if they used a hashtag or a tag of some sort, it'll make it much quicker for checking, rather than having to check through individual numbers. You start by just checking one hash, which will then, or one tag, which will then give you everyone who's used that tag, and then you can check anyone who's not on the list, rather than trying to check each name individually.
Okay, it actually worked out to check the numbers is really quick, because each student, in addition to the number, they've got a letter of the alphabet at the end, which made it really easy to check. If I was just doing it with literally student numbers, no letters, that would be a total nightmare. So yeah, what you said with the hash would work really well.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
I've got Yoko asked the question.
Yeah,
too.
I was going to say, let's get back a little bit more towards Zoom, towards a few other topics. Okay, so okay, I'll try to do everything all at once. I wanted to show the answer to Yoko's question about sharing sound at the same time that I share a screen that is important for a personal question that Louise asked me about the best size of screen to share, and then at the same time give a separate answer for whiteboards and blackboards. Okay, so first, share screen. I gotta first share my whole desktop, and then I'm gonna share my screen again. Now you can actually see my screen sharing palette. And Yoko, right here, there were two checkboxes. Bottom left, this is called the screen sharing palette, okay, where you have a whole bunch of choices. Right here, bottom left, share computer sound, optimize screen share for video clip. So if you're sharing just sound, like an MP3 from your MP3 player, then you really only have to click this one. But if you're doing it from YouTube or something like that, or from an MP4 player like QuickTime Player on your Mac, then you have to get both. Put yourself in the habit of clicking these both. Before class begins, and once you click it, and then you share, like for example, I'm going to share my desktop again. The next
Never
time,
noticed that.
yeah, it'll
Never.
stay there.
Oh.
Because it's actually very easy to miss because of the way that they made the shapes, but they will stay there for the duration of the meeting. But then you have to do it again at the start of the next meeting. So get yourself into a habit of before class starts, before the kids start filing in, go ahead, do a quick share, click those check boxes, even though you have no great intention that day to share sound, because it gets you into a habit. And then one day you go, oh, hey, kids, there's a really cute picture of or a really cute video of a puppy. Let's watch. And then you don't have to be like me, what a butthead I am so often. You go, oh, wait, I got to turn the sound back on. So,
thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. So that was the answer to your question. Now to Louise. Louise, you're still there, eh? Hope she is.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, so you asked me the question, what is the right size and shape of a window that you want to show in a screen share? So here we go again. Am I? No, I'm not. Oh, yes, I am. I'm in the middle of a share right now. I am in the middle of a share right now, right?
Yep, that's right.
Don't remember what I'm sharing, so I'm going to start over. Okay, there. Okay, this is not the normal shape of my browser window. I have a 27-inch monitor, and the normal shape of my browser window goes all the way up and down the monitor. But I shape one of my browser windows so that it basically is about the same size as the Zoom window. It doesn't have to be dead on. You don't have to stretch it out to the corners and squint until you get it perfect, but just roughly this kind of size and proportion. And when I share this, it fits fairly well in the window. You definitely don't want to have something that's portrait orientation. You want something like this that's mostly landscape orientation. And generally as a guide, when the Zoom window, the conference window opens, take a general look at that, reshape whatever window, if it's your word processor, if it's your Excel, or if it's your browser, so that it's kind of in that shape. That will actually appear very, very nicely inside your Zoom window. How's that, Louise? Did I answer that question for you?
Yes,
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Google. I wanted to show you guys this because we were talking about blackboards and we were talking about word processors and we were talking about breakout rooms. One question I got asked a lot before was, Jose, is there any way to show the whiteboard to students that are in the breakout rooms? And the simple answer is no. They cannot see anything because guess what? They're in a breakout room. And the whiteboard can only be shown to one person at a time in the same room that they're in. However, if you have a big enough screen, so here we are in Zoom, and oh, how should I do this? Because I forgot to set a sheet for you. But I'm sure most of you know Google well enough by now, and you know that with the G Suite you can get things like where no, they moved it again. Okay, I don't know where Docs is. There's Docs, so you can open up a doc, and so imagine here's one of my docs. Okay. Now, this is in Google. This isn't in Zoom. So if I invited you to see this document, you would call it up on your browser and you could see it here in the conference room while you're looking at the conference room and you're looking at the browser in another window, and I send you off to breakout rooms, you still see that doc in your browser. So if I wanted to write anything on it while you guys are all in your breakout rooms doing whatever task, I could put something in there. Hey guys, only 5 minutes. I hope you finish that sentence, and it'll appear on everyone's Google Doc. If part of the task was to create sentences that they all shared and we'll discuss later in the conference room while they're in the breakout rooms, they make that sentence, put it in the Google Doc, everyone comes back to conference, and everyone sees what everybody made, and we're able to see it while they were making it. Now, if you want a shared word processing document that's available either in the conference room or in the breakout rooms, then learn to use Google Docs for that. I use Pages just because it's so easy for me, but Google Docs will be fine for that. And another one for you, I don't know if you know this, back to Google Docs, is if I go back up to the top here, okay, is a brand new app called, now I hope they kept it in the same place, Jamboard, right here, Jamboard, okay? Jamboard is Google's, come on, baby, is Google's Whiteboard. Oops, forgot, is Google's Whiteboard. So if you do want a whiteboard, but again, but I can't show it to kids in breakout rooms. Yeah, you can. You go to Jamboard in Google and you've got a whiteboard that is visible to everybody, no matter where they are, as long as they can see the browser and the Zoom window at the same time. Okay. Another part of the discussion that came up was about showing kids how to change their names. John was talking about, I want my kids to change their names. Okay, so I was reminded of this because I was looking at Timmy's virtual background from Dead Poets Society. And this is how I went after this. Okay, well, I'll come back here. Okay, over, where are there, is that it? I think that one's it. Come on. There it is. Okay. Ooh, I got to go over here. Okay, I made a virtual background movie. And in the virtual background movie, as it places a virtual background behind me, are the Japanese instructions to change your name. Now, instead of me having to say this at the first start of October to all of these kids, okay, everybody change your names. How do I do that, Mr. Cruz? Oh, okay, well, you do this, and then you do this. And then comes another kid who's a little bit late. How do I change my name, Mr. Cruz? Okay, you do this, you do this. I just play this for the first 10 minutes, for the first 3 weeks, and eventually they all learn how to change their names without me going on. And I can address other things. I can talk about the plan for that week. And I have this in a version that is on the left side and a version that is on the right side, depending on where you like to sit at your desk. They are available as downloads on the OTJ website in the files folder. And who was it? Rachel Hudson was asking about this, and she said she didn't like it because it was in Japanese. Fair enough. But I didn't want to make this an English lesson too. I just wanted to get over this hump really quickly, and then we could actually get to the English. Bryce, comment?
Yeah, you may find, like, for example, my current system is a bit old, so I cannot run a virtual video background at all. I'll be changing that soon. So depending on your hardware, you may not be able to run something in a video format. But it doesn't mean that you can't make individual slides and then just update your background as you go through from time to time. And that's another option.
So for example, this is an example of how I sometimes use my background to convey information. Today's topics are going to be this, and there's nothing to stop you from putting something else back there. That includes, like, okay, well, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. And you would have to do a little bit more clicking in your virtual background picker, but you know, what are you going to do? You don't have enough of a processing, you don't have enough processing horsepower to do what you need to do, like Bryce just said.
The other thing too, and unfortunately I can't show you because I'm in the middle of updating a whole heap of hardware and software on my system. I had been using something called ManyCam, which then allows you to use a virtual camera. So ManyCam would use my camera. Then I could use that as a virtual camera or a different camera, basically, in Zoom. And using ManyCam, I can type directly onto my screen, put all sorts of different things in, depending on what level of ManyCam account you have. You can have a little bar on the bottom of the screen, which you can scroll and it can update for you. So you can use different virtual camera setups to link into Zoom, even if your hardware can't run a video background. So there are different things like that which can be looked at soon.
Where do you get those virtual cameras at?
Well, usually it comes, any of the video editing software pretty much will allow you to have a virtual camera which can run in another piece of software. So, for example, I've been mucking around with Wondershare Filmora. I've been mucking around with HitFilm and one of the free ones, Orb, I think it was. And because they do video editing and allow an input from your main camera, you actually have a virtual camera, so a software camera, which can be used in other applications and other pieces of software. And you'll find a lot of people are doing that within OTJ, particularly those who've got a very strong multimedia background are all already doing that kind of thing.
Okay. Good.
And as Timmy pointed out in the chat, we have a session on a piece of software called OBS, free software, which will do what Bryce just said. So please check it out. Free. Everybody loves free.
Really powerful and will run on basically any platform you want. It's my preferred choice when I upgrade my system problems. I'll be running a Linux box rather than Windows because I'm getting back to programming soon too.
And what's that OBS
Ooh.
again?
Well, why don't you, what is it, 5 to 6, Timmy?
Okay.
Friday. Oh, that will be cool.
5 p.m. on Friday,
Oh, okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I sent the link right now.
Yeah, there you go. 5 to 6 Friday in the OTJ summer sessions. Looks really, really interesting. Let's take a look at a couple of other solutions for people. Screen share again. And my entire gigantic desktop yet again. Okay. Did you know that there are a bunch of keyboard shortcuts in Zoom? And if you actually learn some of these keyboard shortcuts, it will really cut down a lot of your time. Like, where is it here? Start, stop. Oh, where's start, stop, share? There it is. Start, stop, screen sharing. Shift Command S. Now, this button here, this checkbox, that's the global enabler, which means that it will work on Zoom even if you're working in another piece of software. Now, Shift Command S, I believe, is in certain word processing software will be select destination to save. So it's not a good idea to click this unless you really know what you're doing and you really know all of your hotkeys. But when you're in Zoom, if you remember this hotkey, starting and stopping screen sharing, for example, I'm doing screen sharing right now. There, I just ended it with my keyboard. And I can start it again from my keyboard. Now, of course, you have to select on the palette and everything like that, but so much easier. And there is a ton of these. And again, why go over them? Because I'm not going to help you remember them by going over them. All I can tell you is that there is a ton of them. They are very, very useful. Choose the ones you want, like mute, unmute. So useful. Remember it, and just remember that a little bit. Your brain will tell you that was useful. I want another dopamine hit. Let me go remember another one. You don't have to remember them all at once. Where else am I here? Oh, just a couple of things. You might have noticed, and I hate to point fingers, but let's say Stephen at one point, Risa at one point, and Bryce at one point were having Wi-Fi jitters. Your sound was cutting out. You were literally frozen, and sometimes you just can't help it. You have to use Wi-Fi in that room. But if you have something important, you have an important presentation, for example, you're going to present at JOLT 2020 this year, find a way to get a wired connection. If you haven't done that yet, you really should. For example, I do a podcast, and one of my podcast guests came on. He's a pretty techie guy. He's actually a programmer, but because ERT was new to everybody, he thought that his Wi-Fi connection was good because he had been teaching for 6 weeks, and he was saying, hey, everybody, good class, see you next week. And none of his kids ever said anything to him about whatever his audio or his video looked like. He came onto the podcast. It was absolutely horrible. We couldn't use it. We had to reschedule the podcast because he was jittery. He was blocky, you know, like a mosaic. His sound was horrible. And once he got onto a wired connection, smooth sailing, beautiful image. Just keep it in mind. Sometimes you have to use Wi-Fi, but really you are far, far better off and far, far faster in Zoom with a wired connection.
One thing I find with mine, I'm actually using a wired connection now, but because it's a slightly old router that I'm using, it's not so good. Plus, the temperature here is causing a few problems. So what I've started doing for me is I have a fan aimed at my router, so it helps keep it cooler. And I make sure my router is now in a place which is very open, so not closed in, so that it gets a chance to stay cooler, because I was having issues with my router just dropping out. Now my modem was fine, the signal was coming in and out, no problem, but it wasn't getting to my computer. The router was breaking out.
There you go.
And then where you are, you need some airflow for your hardware to keep it cool. Okay, I've added a link to the hotkeys and keyboard shortcuts for Zoom in the chat.
Thank you,
and
sir.
it's got it for each operating systems because some of them will be slightly different.
Okay, why don't we go to...
You just said it's changed something here. Okay, Mary was trying to ask something before.
Mary, or...
When my sound is out.
Yeah, no, your sound is good. Your sound is good. It's just that you're... Mary, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. When was that?
I think it wasn't Mary, Bryce. Catherine, Catherine, I think you have a question.
Hello. So I'm still having this weird issue where on my own palette, I only get the whiteboard or let's say, you know, whatever file I have selected. I don't see like the iPhone, iPad option.
Okay.
But the very weird thing is when somebody else hosts the meeting, that option comes up for me.
What's going on here?
So I have no idea if is it in my, I've combed through my settings and cannot figure out what I would have enabled to make this so.
Catherine?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, I just heard a voice. Catherine, tell me about your Zoom account. Is it institutional? Is it paid? Is it private?
It's a paid Zoom account.
Okay.
It's updated. I have all the.
It's updated. You have all.
I have all the fun, you know, random stickers.
Check your palette now. Can you share your phone right now?
Yes, because I did not host them. When anybody else starts the meeting, this option comes up for me. When I start the meeting, it does not.
Have you tried throwing out Zoom and reinstalling from the website?
I did once, yes.
Didn't work?
That didn't solve my problem.
You're putting me up. I've been trying to help Catherine with this problem for the longest time.
I remember Doris Wong also mentioned on OTJ that she had
the same problem, and it was the weirdest problem. I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'll just so everybody knows what I'm talking about. You probably, when you go to your palette, you see all of this stuff, right? And you see the whiteboard, you see your iPhone, you can do it by the cable or by AirPlay. If you have an iPhone, it's a really cool thing that you can do. Now with Catherine, she doesn't see any of this except, I think, the whiteboard, right?
Whiteboard, and then if I have a file or some other, you know, my desktop, I can get desktop and file if I have something on the desktop.
How about open apps? Do you have any open apps? Can you share them?
I mean, if they're open on the desktop, I can share. I mean, I can open up pages or and things like that and share.
Right. Even when you can't see your iPhone, as long as Pages is open, it is available as a choice.
Yes.
When you were doing that, were you always sure that the iPhone itself was actually plugged into the computer?
I mean, I've tried. I have a cable. I've either cabled or. I mean, the thing is that it didn't even really appear as an option.
Right, but was it plugged into the computer at the time you were attempting it?
Attempting it. I guess I've attempted it, you know, both ways.
Okay.
With it, you know, cabled or connected or.
Okay, let's you and me see if we can figure that. That's a problem.
I was just wondering if, because we have a crowd here, if anybody else had this bizarre problem. If not, we'll move on.
Question to the crowd.
Specific to me.
Anybody with this bizarre problem? Well, either that or they're really embarrassed and they don't want to admit it.
I don't think so. All right.
Okay.
Moving on. All right. Susan has a question.
Louise has a question, I think. Or is it Susan? Susan, you have a question?
I have a question too.
Okay, Susan. Okay, Susan, go. Or maybe
no, it's Louise.
It's Louise. Okay, I thought it was Susan. Okay, Louise. So with Susan turned on her camera, so I thought, okay, Louise.
Okay, I'm sorry if you have a question too, Susan, afterwards, but just going back to what you just said about make sure you have a wired connection. You mean a LAN connection?
Exactly.
Okay. So for a very low-tech person like me, I need to understand this. I have a little Microsoft Surface Pro laptop. What do I plug in the end of the LAN cable to? Because it has very little in the way of connectors.
Bryce. Bryce. I don't want to. I don't want to. I can give you general information only, Louise, because I've never owned a.
Oh, you're on a Mac. So
I'm sorry.
I think Catherine's got holding up a good
Okay,
one
here he comes. Here he comes.
It's a
Yeah.
cheater.
It's
I call him
basically an
cheater.
adapter. But Bryce, are you with us? No, he's not. Not yet.
Okay.
Okay. The
Buy little adapters.
That's the basic idea. You buy a little adapter, but you actually have to be careful about what kind of adapter, what kind of terminal it has. Bryce, Louise, can you phrase your question again?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Bryce, are you with us? Hang on. Bryce, you with us?
I think he's lost his sound. He said so in the chat earlier.
Bummer. Okay. So basically, I'll give you a general overview of what you need to do, Louise. Okay. You have a Wi-Fi router in the house?
I do.
Have you ever looked in the back of it and found what looked like phone jacks, a row of about 3 or 4 phone jacks in the back of it?
Sure.
Okay. One of them will be to either the optical fiber connection, and it'll be a little bit separate from the others, and there'll be 3 or 4 just sitting by themselves that will take what's called an Ethernet cable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you purchase that Ethernet cable, and then to get it to the Surface laptop, depending on what it has, if it's USB or USB 3 or USB-C, you need to get something that looks like what Catherine held up, so that it will take on one end the Ethernet cable and on the other end the connector to your computer. But that's only half the battle. After that, then you have to tell the computer in the computer's settings how to do that. And unfortunately,
from Wi-Fi to LAN, you mean?
yeah. So now that's what we need Bryce for, to be able to tell you that, unless somebody else here has the confidence to tell you that, because I simply don't have the knowledge. But before we go, one thing I'll tell you. If you're going to go buy a LAN cable, a new LAN cable, and this is for everybody, if you're going to go buy a new LAN cable, okay, there are several different types of LAN cable. The lowest level quality is category 5. Do not buy that. That is too low, okay? It might be cheaper by I don't know, 50 yen for 10 meters, but you're not doing yourself any favor. The minimum specification that you want is category 5E. And as you go up in number to category 6, category 7, category 7E, you're actually going to get a better cable. And yes, it matters. If you're going to get the highest speed out of a high-speed router and maybe like a 1 gigabit per second connectivity on your computer, you need to get that higher quality cable. And the higher quality cable is a difference of, let's say, 10-meter cable will be about, let's say for category 5 will be about 1,200 yen. A category 7 cable will maybe be about 1,600 yen.
Oh.
Right. So it really is worth your time to remember the number 7 or at least 6E or 6. Okay. Do not get a category 5 cable if they're on sale, and they're just not worth it. Okay.
May I ask you?
Oh, Yoko-san, yes.
Yeah. So relating to that, I use MacBook Pro, and I used to use LAN, and about maybe 7 months ago, somehow it stopped working. And I wonder if it's the cable then.
Could be. It could be a lot of things.
Yeah, because the cable was quite old, maybe 10 years old.
Oh, well, then if it's that old, yeah, I would probably look at the cable first.
Ah, okay. Thanks. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. And where did you keep it, Yoko-san? Like, was it just under your desk or what?
The router?
The cable.
Around my desk.
Okay, another thing too, you do not want it coiled up. So
okay.
Like for example,
yeah, because it's a
you know
long
what I mean
cable.
by coiling something, you coil it so it's nice and neat like that. Do not
You're
do
right,
that
right.
do not do that with audio cable. Do not do that with signal cable for a computer. It creates an electrical field. And that electrical field starts to interfere with the electrical signals. So do not coil that cable, okay? I know it looks really ugly under your desk, but the more random it is, the less likely it is to create a coherent electrical field. Which can,
and shorter the better for the connection?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
because it's a long cable, because I wanted to use it in different rooms.
I understand that, you know, this way I can move it around here and there, but you are quite right. The shorter, the better.
Okay, I'll order a new one. Yeah.
Remember, category 5E minimum. 5E minimum.
Right. Okay, maybe 7 or something.
If you can afford it, yeah.
Yeah.
7. And you can get ribbon cable now rather than just the round stuff. So if you want to have doors closed, like upstairs, I use ribbon cable because I can close most of the doors and you can still go comfortably under the door without any problem.
Bryce, buddy, sorry, but your audio is still really spotty.
Okay, I will try to look at that.
Sorry, man. Okay, so I'm going to open up the floor to now some tech questions, not just Zoom-oriented stuff. And we're already there pretty much when we're talking about cables, because this was supposed to be a tech roundtable too. But depending on how the conversation goes, there's still a ton of crap I could talk about with Zoom that I think is still very, very useful. Just to give you a preview, has anyone here, raise your hand, has anyone here tried to do breakout rooms and purposely tried to go into a new set of breakout rooms that they were hoping were completely randomized, and it turns out that they were completely unrandomized, or they were maybe randomized, but only 2 or 3 people out of 20 were randomized, and everybody else is going, hey, that's the same guy from before. So I could talk about that. Stephen, Patrick, yeah, I know the problem. But we could talk about tech, or we could continue with Zoom. So depends on what the next question is for me. No?
Zoom stuff actually works for me.
Okay, good. So we're going to go with that Zoom thing. All right, here we go. Because this is important for everybody. It was pissing me off. Go to breakout rooms, create breakout rooms. And, you know, you think, okay, this is pretty good, right? Okay, let's randomize that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to recreate this, and because it's even more obvious when you do it in smaller groups. So recreate that. And there's the breakout rooms as they are. And let me make that a bit bigger so we can see them. Okay, now you might want to check out your own name. Okay, I know it's gonna be hard to see, but let me try to recreate that now. Okay, I recreate that. Okay, and I recreate that again. How did that do? Did that recreate that very well for you?
Can you do it again?
Okay. Now, on the other hand, they've probably been getting complaints about this, and they probably put in a new recreation algorithm, and it actually looks not too bad. But in case you are still getting it, okay, Patrick might still be getting it, Stephen might still be getting it, and you want to make absolutely sure they're as randomized as possible. This is my trick, okay? Let me make this a little bit smaller and put this over here where it's a little bit wider. So you create something, and then you would think, okay, let me recreate it, and it should be recreated. And it seemed like before they were okay, but if you want to make sure, change this room number. Change it to 3. Recreate that. That'll bounce everybody here. Then send it back to the number that you really wanted. Takes a few extra seconds, and you still got to go to everybody. Excuse me, everybody, you still got to recreate breakout rooms. And you are guaranteed that this is going to be the highest quality recreation randomization that you're probably going to get from their algorithm. Recreate to a different number, usually a lower one, then recreate back to your ideal number. Okay. That's what I would suggest. Okay.
By the way, I found the same thing, that just changing the number of rooms does make a more random distribution.
Right. How you doing, Bryce? Got any
Good. Can you hear me okay? I hope.
Much better.
Susan asked a question or made a comment about participants appearing with no name label at all, if this is a setting they have enabled.
I've never encountered that problem. Can you tell me about, go Bryce.
I've just been having a look at something called identifying guest participants. So that's a guest is anyone who isn't signed in, or signed in from an email address that is not in the same account as the host, or signed in with a version of the Zoom client software older than the supported version. So you can actually look at things that bypass some of the other settings. But I don't know about the user side or the attendance side and whether it's a setting they can change to enable this. Does anyone have any idea on that?
I've never encountered that problem.
Bryce, a few weeks ago, I was having students with an unidentifiable name thing, and I couldn't see, and they were low enough that I couldn't communicate well enough to find out the technical reasons. tech at my university suggested they just update their Zoom, and that fixed everything.
Yeah, that's my impression from looking at, I've just put a link in for the page. That's my impression from looking at the information about guest participants and the reasons why they wouldn't be identified. And really for the university environment where everyone has to be registered to be able to access meetings, I would bet it would be to do with not having an updated version of Zoom. And that link should have a bit of information to look at now. Because I don't have, I don't work in that environment, I don't have access to a lot of this stuff to play around with directly, but that should give you their official support information.
Okay, Bill, because I think Carmela's been waiting for a bit. Sorry, Carmela, you got a question?
Yeah, sorry. No problem. It's not about Zoom though. Is that okay?
No, not at all.
Okay. So Bryce, I'm thinking about getting a new computer.
Right.
And I know Jose made this great presentation about buying Apple, but if I'm not buying Apple, any suggestions, advice?
Okay. Like anything to do with hardware and software, the first question is, how much money do you have to spend?
That was my first question, yeah.
Right. The second question is, what do you want to be able to do with the hardware?
My second question, yeah.
It's something that has to be mobile or something that can be based on location. Like what I'm looking at is a low-powered desktop PC. I've got virtually no budget for a computer, but I'm going to recycle all the parts of my PC that I can use. So for me, I know that I can get a motherboard and a processor and memory, because they're usually the three things that are different when you get a new computer. I'm running an old thing with DDR3 RAM. All the new stuff, you really need to have DDR4. And you don't need a lot of it if you're not crunching video processing or playing powerful games. Now, I even have, for my monitors, one of them I picked up for 1,000 yen, right, at a hard off. My second computer runs 2 monitors I got for 1,000 yen from hard off. And my third computer runs projector, all right? So don't worry about going for high-end stuff if you're not a power user.
I am a little bit of a power user in the fact that at any given time when I'm doing some research and stuff, I tend to have maybe 20 internet windows open and 20 Windows documents and an Excel and a whole bunch of PDFs.
So as long as you've got a reasonable CPU, and pretty much anything new is going to be reasonable. I'm looking at just running probably an Intel i5 chip, which is about 16,000 yen on Amazon. Well, I'm lucky because I can build a computer, so that doesn't worry me. But looking at what I need, I can put together a computer for 40,000 yen, which would allow me to run pretty much 30 open windows, graphic processing software, play a game if I feel like it, and have 10 or 20 documents open to look at. It's not necessarily going to be the fastest thing, but if you get a good graphics card, that will help as well. And most of the up-to-date CPUs, not state-of-the-art ones, you don't need to spend 100,000 yen, will do okay. But like I know how to put one together, so
right.
That's a bonus for me. What sort of hardware do you need? Do you need it to be a laptop?
No.
Okay, so a desktop gives you a lot more versatility and a lot more power for the price. Now, your old PC, will you keep all the hard drives from that to use?
Yeah, if I can, like obviously I don't know anything about making anything, but if I can get someone to help me, it's got a trig of hard drives, so it's still fine.
Yeah, that's good. I would recommend making backups of all your hard drives if you're going to run with the same operating system and the same documents. And you can pick up a gizmo to do that for 5,000 or 6,000 yen these days, which just allows you to pop in a hard drive of one size and a hard drive of the equivalent volume, and you can hit a button and it'll just back it straight up. They're pretty straightforward. But
what is that called?
second. I'll just go get one to bring you.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
think I've got one. Okay. But the other thing to look at is basically, if you're going to get someone to put it together for you, tell them what you need it to be for. You're not crunching video, all right? You're not crunching a lot of data. So you don't need high-end processors. What you need is a good video capacity and a decent amount of RAM so that you can keep everything quickly accessible.
May I also offer some cross-platform advice that I'm sure is the same, because it's a matter of ergonomics. If you've never owned a larger monitor, Carmela, once you discover a 27-inch monitor and how it can handle the tiling of your windows so that you get used to being able to look to the top left corner and that's your mail, top right corner and that's your clock, and in the middle is where you move around a lot of windows. And then I don't know what the equivalent is in Macintosh, but let me show you here. I have what's called virtual desktops. So these are basically desktops that are held inside the computer's memory, and there I can tile. This is where I keep my mail and my calendar. This is where I do my video editing, and this is where I do my browser and stuff like that. And the way that the Macintosh tiles it, that's why you see all of these things tiling around like now. But having one big monitor is great. Having multiple virtual desktops is even better. But you really do need that first big monitor. So if you can get that, you'll never go back. You can do that even with a notebook computer, because a good notebook computer with a good small video card can run even a 4K monitor now. Sorry, Bryce.
Oh, that's okay. No, that's all very good. I personally like to have two monitors. I usually use it that way because then I can keep something permanently open on one monitor, whether it be social media, if I need to catch up on what's happening with kids and stuff, and all my other documents, like, as I say, with virtual screen setups or portion off screen. There's different things that can do that. And Windows has a virtual desktop setup essentially as well. This is the sort of thing I was talking about as far as a cheap hard drive copier goes. The straight push button, it's a USB connection, and this is an old one, so it's not that fast. And it can take either of the major drive sizes. All right. So as long as the drive in one side is the same size, so as the other one, you can just press a button and it'll copy it straight over. It just takes time. Right. If you don't want to worry about technical stuff like RAID and things like that, this is an easy solution. Right. Certainly it's very important to keep backups of anything when you upgrade your hardware.
Is it going to stay with the same operating system?
Well, Carmela, you'll be staying with Windows, I take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes, depending on your licensing for your Windows, you may have issues when you upgrade your hardware.
Really?
Yeah, because it depends on the license for your Windows. Some licenses are limited to the machine that it's on. So you have to go through Microsoft to be able to register it to use. But the good thing with Windows 10, and I'm doing this on one of my other computers at the moment, I'm using an unregistered copy. It actually has no difference whatsoever other than having occasional reminders that you should register and a logo in one corner of your screen. So it actually doesn't affect anything if it's a personal thing. If it's an institutional thing, they should organize that for you, no problem.
Bryce, just out of interest, how much would a new license for all of that hardware you're talking about, how much would it cost, just a license for Windows itself?
Oh God, I couldn't tell. I haven't bought a license for years. The last time I got a license was when you got a free license upgrade to Windows 10 when it first came out.
What kind of range are we talking about? $100, $300?
I'd say 150 to 200 would probably.
Okay. Because people are always talking about how Macs are more expensive, but they forget about that. Our OS has come free.
Yeah.
We don't pay for
what I find, honestly, the difference between a Mac and a PC tends to be style, all right? And if you're used to a particular interface, that influences what you do a lot.
Yep.
If you really want to, you can download an interface into Windows so it operates like a Mac. And with Linux, you can do that too if you want. And conversely, you can run Windows on a Mac machine.
Yep.
If you choose to.
Yep.
On an Apple, all right? So that's all things personal preference. if you're worried about using the software you already have, you're always better off sticking with the machine that you already have for ease of use, unless you want to upgrade the lot.
Okay, we have 10 minutes until 8 o'clock, and I will literally have to leave.
Carmela, please feel free to, I'll put my email address up here. Drop me an email. Okay?
So let me just
I
finish what I
will.
was
Thank
about
you
to
so
say.
much.
Let me just finish what I was about to say. I'm going to make Bryce host, and if he is so generous, you can stay with him and talk tech with him. I have to go take care of Alex Burke's next session, which, by the way, sounds like a really fascinating one. If you think that you have neurodiverse kids, I would really suggest you go watch it. She is a fascinating speaker. But
is that going to be recorded? Because I have a meeting at 8.
Yeah, absolutely be recorded. This is recorded. They're all recorded. There are only 2 sessions that are not scheduled to be recorded. All of the sessions will be recorded from here on.
I'm looking forward to that.
It's a really great thing. But I got 5 minutes to show you just a couple of other things that I think are really important for everyone. Okay. If you're using a notebook computer, okay, get this thing off your desk for 2 reasons, right? When people were telling me, Jose, my computer is acting strangely and it got broken even before the warranty. One of the first things I asked them is, where did you keep it when you were using it? I said, it was on my desk. Okay, what kind of desk do you have? Oh, it's a plastic desk. If your notebook right now has been using Zoom, just touch the bottom of it. Now imagine that thing was sitting on a plastic desk for an hour, hour and a half for one class. That's like putting a down jacket on in today's weather. It gets that hot, okay? So there are 2 things that you can do to help your computer for 2 different reasons, okay? One of them is the best you can, get this thing off the desk. And one of the simplest things that you can do for that is to get yourself, sorry about the noise, to get yourself any type of coin, but you need 3 of them. So these are 3 100 yen coins. Then you need 2 sets of them, 3 and 3. You put them on the back feet of these things, and you have to be careful. You have to sort of gingerly put them down, but that will raise the computer just ever so slightly off the desk to allow air to pass through underneath here. Do not put this thing on top of a wooden desk unless you have to. I mean, even then you could put like a book under here, and then again, it would slant up. You want it slanted up. You want air underneath this thing. Second reason why you want to do that is
nice one, Susan.
What?
Nice one, Susan.
The second reason why you want to do that is that if you get this uplifted, okay, it's still on a book or something, that's not a good idea. But at least in that case, now the camera has gone from throat height or maybe chin height, okay? And it's gonna go up to eye height. We all have those kids who like only show the top of their heads, or their cameras are right up their noses. Be careful, you do not want to be that teacher. When you aim your computer, I talked about this back in April and May, you want to create a digital stage for yourself. So look at the way that my desk is framed. Basically, I can put my elbows all the way out here and my forearms are still visible. My head is right at the edge of the top of the screen. And basically you have a bust shot of me. From here, my gestures are much more visible. I am not, okay, yeah, I'm not Patrick. I do not have my eye right in the camera, and my nose hairs visible to the degree where they can be counted by the students. Again, a bad idea. But this framing is basically what news broadcasters use. This forearm extended framing. Your gestures are visible. You're capable of being more emotive, more emphatic to your students. And you don't want this, and you definitely don't want this, okay? I'm gonna turn on this camera to my other computer. Okay, you don't want this. This is not what you want. You see that other camera? You do not want this. Why? Because you are looking down at people. And when students talk about how their teachers kind of made them feel a bit weird and they didn't like Zoom, I sometimes think it has to do with how the digital stage was set. Now, if your computer broke down and you have to use your iPad, can't be helped, but try your best to remember, you do not want to be looking down. You want to be looking up. If anything, my camera is actually above my eyes. It's above here. and it creates a downward angle on me. They're looking down on me. Next, light. If I turn that light off, okay, I look like this. And yeah, they can see me, but I look a lot better, right? Now, let's say you don't have that light, or that light gets a little bit glaring. I have two ceiling lights, one right there and one right above me, and that's what creates this effect. But if I turn off this ceiling light above me, completely different effect. Play with the ceiling lights, play with the lights, do what you can to make yourself appealing to your students, because when I hear about students say, I don't want to turn on my camera, or teachers say, well, why don't my students turn on their camera? Has to do with a lot of things like their camera angle to the students might seem a little bit creepy. They're too close to the camera. I mean, you've all heard these kids. I've never heard this before when I was in Canada, but kids will say, "Ya chikayo." They don't like their personal space being invaded. And when your face is right up to the camera, their personal space is being invaded. Last one, audio. Be careful. It is worth your investment in getting a good microphone. And one of the best ones that I can recommend for you is this lavalier microphone that I really like. A lavalier means that basically it's a clip-on mic. This is about $75, $85 depending where you buy it, and depending on your computer, you can plug it straight in. There's the plug right there. You can plug it straight in, or you might need a USB connector. I'm sorry I'm going really, really fast. But basically it's this. Make yourself look good. You can adjust the digital stage. You can stop looking down at your notebook. Raise your notebook off the desk by using a stand, because it's good for the computer and it's good for your appearance. I gotta go. Where did Bryce go? There he is. I'm just gonna make sure that you're the host.
I gotta go too.
You're the host. Okay, tell you what, this is a really fascinating session coming up with Alex Burke, and I really do have to go, and I suggest that you come join me and check it out with her. But thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And I'm always available for more questions like this on OTJ. Put up a post, tag me in it, and I'll try my best to answer. Bryce, I think he has a bit more time on his hands and probably would want to answer, get back into the whole programming frame of mind. Bryce, you're the host. You can stay and say goodbye to everybody. But I'm going to kill the recording, and I got to go take care of Alex. Hope to see you guys there.
Thank you, Jose.
Bye-bye.
Well, thank you.
Gotta go too.